I would like to call to order a Redevelopment Commission meeting, June 10th. That's amazing. Sorry, Thursday, June 10th, 2021. We do have a quorum. And Joe, do you need to read a statement for our online participants?
Yes, I do. Thank you. The public is invited to attend the meetings of the Redevelopment Commission. The RDC may impose reasonable restrictions on the number of attendees to control audience density in consideration of the existing COVID-19 national emergency. The public may participate remotely by dialing 463-777-8704, then entering PIN number 732-761. Additionally, if you'd like to provide comments remotely, please email them to jmurphy@cityoflawrence.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. First thing on the agenda today is to approve the regular meeting minutes of the May 13th meeting. I'm hoping and assuming everyone has seen those and have been able to go through those. Does anyone have any comments or concerns on the May 13th regular meeting?
Well, my only comment would be that, Joe, you've done an excellent job putting these together.
Thank you. Got a little long-winded this week, but that's all right.
All right, and if there are no comments or concerns, can I have a motion for approval?
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the minutes as approved.
And do we have a second?
Second.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We'll continue with roll call vote. David Blunt.
Approved.
Jerry Clifford.
Approved?
Cheryl Sullivan.
Approved.
Ray Rohana.
Approved.
Melissa Swindell.
Approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Next, we have the claims and purchase orders for payment for the month of May. So I'm hoping everyone has seen those. Joe sent those out. And does anyone have any questions or comments before we go through those? All right, can you explain the breakdown of the paperwork that we received on the claims and the purchase orders?
See, big man.
Explain the breakdown.
Do you have the claims in front of you?
Just the batch register.
Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of read through them and let us know.
Yeah, the first payment is to Barnes and Thornburg. That's Bruce for the RDC Council. The second one is the BCA payments that receive very frequently, and then the last one is a synthesis contract for the Trades District Division.
All right, are there any comments or concerns, questions?
One comment would be, or just a quick question. That payment to the BCA Environmental, is that part of the reimbursable?
Yes.
Yes, that's part of the grant.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Not here.
All right, may I have a motion to approve the claims and purchase orders for the month of May?
Your turn, Melissa.
Let you do.
Motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I'll second.
All right. We've got a second. We'll do a roll call vote for approval. David Blunt.
Approved.
Jerry Clifford.
Approved?
Cheryl Sullivan.
Approved.
Ray Rohana.
Approved.
And Melissa Swindell.
Approved.
Thank you.
Mr. President, if we may, I would appreciate if you would reverse the old business on the agenda and do the new business first.
There you go.
Sure can. All right, we're going to move on to the new business, and Dan, take it away.
Actually, this is, these first two items are Bruce Donaldson and Joe. Bruce, would you like to take it?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. The redevelopment statute, you may remember this, requires the commission prior to June 15th of each year to determine whether it will need to capture all of the TIF assessed value in its 3 TIF allocation areas for the following budget year, so for 2022. And that's so that the city can then, put that into the budget and everything. So this is the resolution that makes your determination that, yes, you will be capturing all of the incremental assessed value in the three areas, which are Pendleton Pike, Monarch, and Meyer Plastics for budget year 2022. And then directs, we have to send a notice of that determination to all the taxing units, the city council, the county auditor, and the DLGF.
So are you seeking, Bruce, a motion to approve the resolution?
Yes, sir.
All right, do I have a motion to approve resolution number 3-2021?
So moved, then we'll skip the call for questions.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All right, motion and a second for approval of resolution number 3-2021. We'll do a roll call vote for approval. David Blunt,
Approved.
Jerry Clifford, Cheryl Sullivan,
Approved.
Ray Rohana,
Approved.
Melissa Swindell.
Approved.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Do you have a question, Jerry? Okay.
I just wanted to make sure nobody else.
All right, I'll take number 2 here. You should have received, along with your agenda this week, electronic participation policy. If you'll recall, last meeting in May, Bruce came and spoke to us about the new legislative changes that were affecting how RDCs across Indiana conducted business. Part of that legislative policy was an update to electronic participation in response to how people have been conducting business in Indiana over Zoom, et cetera. So what we've done here is created our own formal policy for the Redevelopment Commission that replicates exactly what that new legislative order dictates. So in accordance with Indiana Code 5-14-1.5-3.5, as amended by, it continues on to essentially repeat the state legislators dictate verbatim. So I'm looking for a motion to approve this policy, and then the expectation going forward would be that everybody has read this and understands the procedure so that we're not falling out of line with what is required by the state, and then after this by our own recognition.
Question. Have all of the commissioner members read the policy?
Yes, sir.
I have a couple questions. And first one is for Bruce. One of the items in there says that we'd have to have in-person meetings for approval of a fee. So the resolution that we just approved, I would assume is considered a fee for TIF?
No, I don't think that's a fee. All you were doing in that resolution was basically saying that you're going to capture all of the TIF from your 3 allocation areas. So it's not really assessing any new fee. It's just a question of where property taxes that are already being paid will be, whether they would go to the Redevelopment Commission or they'd go to the other taxing units.
Okay, all right. And then the second question is where it mentions one could be online up to 2 meetings in a row. If it's a day that we have both an executive committee meeting and a regular meeting, is that 1 meeting or is that 2 meetings?
I'm not an attorney, but my interpretation of this is that this is referring to the publicly advertised meetings only.
Is that true, Bruce?
I'm not sure. That's a good question. I suspect that's right, but we may have to just kind of look at that and get back to you to make sure we've addressed that for you.
Okay, because obviously the issue there is if someone were to miss both or would not be in person for both executive committee and regular meeting, and if in fact we're going to continue to have a lot of executive committee meetings, that would be the 2 meetings.
I think that's a really important and good clarification to ask for. Unfortunately, from my perspective, as regard whether or not we pass this resolution, this is exactly per state statute. So we don't have anything we can do about it. We just need to understand what that means.
Yes, I agree. We'll just have to figure out, this may be one of those gray areas that we're just gonna have to figure out how to interpret it.
Okay. And then I guess my only other question is, third question is, the legislature has said that they're already going to come back and most likely amend that statute. So I would assume then that we would come back and amend our policy at that time. As
I agree, yes.
Change.
Yes, I agree with that. We'll monitor that for you as well.
Thank you.
And for me, Bruce is the expert, but I think the executive meetings is something that we decided to start on our own.
Well, the executive meetings do not have an action component. We cannot do anything actionable within an executive session. So Bruce can check it for sure, but I'm certain that the statute is actually referring to the public meetings where actions can be taken.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. 'Cause
Then I
before-
think maybe for purposes of this meeting and to move this policy along, maybe could make a motion that it's the regularly scheduled meetings or some other verbiage, add that to the policy. And then if Bruce finds out that executive committee meetings in fact are included, then we modify it again to read executive and
I think that's a
regular
great
meeting.
suggestion, Cheryl, and if you wouldn't mind, I think you should make the motion based upon your statement.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for approval of the electronic participation policy with the amendment that Cheryl has discussed, and we'll do a roll call vote for approval. David Blunt,
Approved.
Jerry Clifford,
Approved.
Cheryl Sullivan,
Approved.
Ray Rohana,
Approved.
Melissa Swindell.
Approved.
Thank you.
Number 3 under new business, we obviously have parcels across town that we own. Fortunately, since last year, we've cut that in half down to basically 3 to 4 parcels at the max. But nonetheless, the grass is about 3 foot high, and it's really starting to look unsightly. And we have not hired and engaged a maintenance group for that. So we have asked Penny with the city to use the contractor that he has already under contract at the rates the city has under contract, because we know they're competitive, to knock those projects out, because I'm putting immense pressure right now on a number of our companies and property owners around the city to clean their places up. And ours look as bad or worse than theirs do. And I don't want the RDC to be accused of not holding our own. So we've asked them to step in and get that done and just submit a bill to us for those services, just as the city would. We'll just break out what was the RDC property and handle it. So you can expect that we'll be submitting on our claims in the next month or so to get the grass cut and updated for this point in the year. And there'll probably be a second one or maybe even a third one yet this year, but I think we'll have 2 to 3 rounds of maintenance on those lots that are there. So just to make you aware of that. If there's no further questions relative to those items, we're going to go to old business and any other business. Wanted, if you haven't noticed, we're the house on Franklin that you all approved, the economic incentive support for Amerifence is down. Yesterday it was just a big hole. When I came by it today, they've pretty much got the hole filled, and now they're starting on removing all the trash and brush and stuff around it. Mr. Speak was in today on another matter, and he asked how we go about signing off or reimbursing, and I told him I wanted to see the thing cleaned up to my standard. And when I was in town a week from Thursday, I would be glad to walk the site if they feel they're done, and be sure that the Redevelopment Commission will be content with what I see. And if that's the case, he can submit a request for reimbursement at the July meeting. and that we would sign off on that, and Tyler would get him a check probably later that week. So just wanted you to know that's coming along, and it's sure a big improvement. And there, by the way, there were 3 squatters in that building when it came down that had to be removed, and the amount of trash and terrible conditions around it have been eliminated. For those that weren't in the executive session today, and for the general public, you all know that the RDC approved the development of a master plan for a strategic plan for the trades district. Many of you were involved, and I'm very grateful for that to this point. At our executive session on July 8th, as the contracting body, this group will get to see the final draft, if you will, of the final plan for any comments that need to be incorporated into the final report. And that will be a special session of the executive session beginning at 3 o'clock prior to our next meeting, and will be an hour, and I would appreciate it if everybody could make an effort to be here in person because Synthesis will be here for that executive session and providing all the comment, and I think you'll be very excited to see that not only was everybody heard, I believe everybody was fully heard when you see the final report, but the number of things we were able to incorporate and the vision that's come about for the city and the change that will occur as a result of your efforts. So that'll be on the 8th. I'm going to move into, just to give you, this doesn't all apply to the executive session or to the RDC, but just my daily list right now that I gave the mayor today was 1.5 pages of things we have going on in the city, and they're pretty extensive. I will tell you that on Monday we had 6 inquiries on Monday alone for companies wishing to locate in Lawrence. Joe and I are pretty much being run ragged to a good reason, working on zoning and permissions and whether or not we'd support with incentives. But there are some really cool projects, small and significant in size, looking on coming to Lawrence. And some of them the RDC will be involved with. And even though the RDC is not totally involved, I would like to tell you that within the trades district, SAIC, the big engineering firm, Joe and I had a chance to tour that last month at their request. And as we walked through it, our shoulders rubbed up against the bomb racks for F-18 fighters and F-35 fighters. We brushed up against the rocket launchers for the Huey choppers. They design, build, manufacture, ship, receive, repair, and handle all that for the Army here in Lawrence. Most people don't realize that takes place, the Army and the Navy. They have 150 people they employ currently, and they just took the lease for the entire block that they're in and facility, and they're going to expand their facility and renovate the whole place and add another 50 employees. So the work we're doing is really critical as the RDC to support those initiatives, and they've not asked for any incentives relative to that. On July the 29th, this group will be invited to participate should you wish, but the National Association of Women in Construction will host their regional quarterly meeting here in the city of Lawrence in this room. There will be from 5:30 to 6, correct, Joe? 5 to 5:30.
Yeah, 5 to 5:30, they'll have a reception, and then 5:30 to 6:30, a presentation.
5 to 5:30 will be a networking session with a little bit of food and drink, and right here to get acquainted with everybody. And then at 6 o'clock, the mayor and I will be providing to this group a presentation mostly focused around the trades district and the opportunity we believe there is for women in construction and construction businesses to become a part of our initiative. And they've made us aware that they would welcome this group or anybody else in the city or the public that would like to attend that session. Relative to the Freegee project update.
Wait a minute.
Yes, sir.
Mind, what was the date of that again, Dan?
That's the 29th
Thank you. And
July, 29th of July.
29th of July, right?
Yes.
Starting at 5 o'clock.
Great, thank you. And the second part of that, Joe, are you going to put out something on this?
Yeah, we'll have something on our page once we're working with their what's her name, Jennifer?
Jennifer April.
Jennifer and April right now to put
Arvin,
together a
Jennifer Arvin.
to put together a flyer that we're going to use and put on our webpage and our Facebook page, but I can send it directly to you guys as well.
Thank you so much.
We can also give you a reminder next month regarding Freegee, as you can tell if you've been by it, it's making a lot of progress. They've poured the first half of Plummer Street. It's been poured. I have been largely involved in a number of debates and communications from Freegee and Mills, as you would expect, based upon what we went through earlier. The good news is the AT&T work is done. It's been relocated, and Tyler has paid. There actually ended up being 2 invoices, but I think our total payout was in the neighborhood of $53,000, 52,
Yeah, that'd be correct.
somewhere in that range when we had appropriated 100. So that came out really well and got done expeditiously. Much I want to say publicly thanks to Ray Cox for helping negotiate that for us. But Freegee's coming along. I expect that to really work out well, and I don't think there's anything else to report relative to that at the moment. We'll mention to you that we have a potential developer from the city working on the Parcel J West parcel. That's a really cool development that, as that comes to fruition, you may hear more about down the road. Joe is still working on the 6405 Oakland and Fire Station lease to get that building leased and upgraded and make that neighborhood a little stronger. I mentioned to you, I think earlier, that we have got the 8013 East 46th Street parcel that we all own, which is the former motorcycle shop. We conducted a phase 2 on that because of concerns of what might have been leaked there, or oil changes, or what might have occurred for decades there. The good news is there wasn't anything found. There were some levels of arsenic, which are just natural in Indiana soil, that would not permit residential relocation or occupation of that particular parcel, but it's not intended for that anyway. So that's good news. Probably the next most interesting item to you all, which will be brought to you in full at your next meeting. Next meeting is going to be really busy. But you all authorized a wetlands drainage study for me a year ago on the property owned by the Cato and Nidco development over off of Shadeland, with the idea of combining those parcels. I now have the full study in hand. I've not had a chance to really read it yet. It's 450 pages or something like that. I guess the good news is we know what we're dealing with. I will tell you in summary, the bad news is it really indicates there's not near the opportunity for development there that I thought there might, based upon the degree of the wetlands that exist today. But at least we know what we're dealing with, and it'll allow us to make a good decision with the property we own on Shadeland as to whether it's worth holding or not when I'm done with that. And I'll be willing to share that with you next month. Drone Deck, we've had communication with Drone Deck. Since you sold that building to them, you'll notice not much change has occurred. They have pretty much got the cleanup done on the inside of the building. But the current costs that we're going through relative to construction and construction material delays, there has not really been any significant construction yet. They are still planning to do their drone pilot testing, beta testing in Lawrence. Their first deliveries in Lawrence under the testing this fall. And Joe thinks that they may have their prototype out in time for the Lawrence Public Safety Day to demonstrate it. Let's see, next, the 56th Street Pendleton Pike parcel separation that you all paid a survey for. I have the survey in hand. I shared that somewhat in executive session. Now we're trying to figure out how we have to legally get that parcel out so we can sell it, but it turns out we have a 1.1 acre parcel that's really nice and available for retail that'll come out of that. And I'll be working with Caitlin and Bruce and others to figure out how we make that transition. One of the big things that'll be coming forward to this group probably for help and participation in is Harrison and Ford is getting ready to move forward with their proposed expansion. That includes new rail service, tank farm behind it, 150,000 square foot new building beside their existing building, and a major expense. They're preparing their application for incentives and assistance at this point, and I should have it by the time we meet next. And I don't know where the Redevelopment Commission will be involved in that, but we will. Meyer Plastics, that's ongoing, and you've all been a part of that from the beginning. We still continue to pay for that. We're trying to get the environmental restrictive covenants that we promised Meyer Plastic at the time they did their development. That's been held up by IDEM for various reasons. This week, through the mayor's assistance, we were able to get the governor's office involved in trying to push that to a close. I don't think there's any issue that we're not going to get around. It's just taking an awful long time to get done and a lot of attorney fees. Amerifence has poured a couple slabs in their old buildings that they bought on the Boring Trust property. They've upgraded three of the buildings to new service. They're getting drawings done by an engineering firm. They promised me today they would have engaged with this week, and the idea is they're going to build Poindexter's going to build a big berm around their property that'll be landscaped and provide some screening to that Boring Trust property from Franklin Road, which will help with our development. They've also agreed that they're going to paint those buildings and make them look better from the road and clean up much of the trash and stuff that you see there now, so we're continuing to monitor that. I believe for now, that's my report, Mr. President. If anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to entertain them.
And great report. One question, just in an item that you didn't mention. The building north of Meyer Plastics, that was going to be turned into a sports complex.
I'm glad you brought that up. That's really important for you to know that, the Incrediplex project. So that has been purchased, subject to zoning approval, by a large lumber distributor that will use the rail and convert it back to an industrial use. As part of that, it came to me, and I refused it initially unless they were willing to make some changes, and the changes I wanted to see were 12-foot high fences with adequate, beautiful screening and wrought iron fence and landscaping across the front to upgrade the appearance of Sunnyside as you drive in front of it and protect the investment that Myers Plastic made on their beautiful building to the side and to the storage unit across the road. So, and I need to talk to Renee about that here in just a moment since she walked in. But nonetheless, Renee sent me yesterday, and Sri and I signed off on the BZA application, and they'll hear that next week. So it looks to me like that building's going to go fully back on the tax rolls and be fully staffed and equipped.
Wow, that's great.
Other questions? Renee, do you have something for us?
I thought you said you.
No, I want to talk to you personally in a minute.
Oh, okay.
So
Thank you for that.
that's a great question.
Dan, in that lumber company, do you know what they're going to be doing?
So my understanding is there's no manufacturing there, it's all distribution. So it'll be a company that's going to bring in all forms of lumber for construction purposes, and it'll be stacked, stored inside, loaded, distributed to customers, but it's a distribution facility.
Okay.
Excellent. You know the name of the company?
I do not.
Thank you. Okay.
And if I did, I've forgotten.
Okay.
And if I did know it, I probably couldn't share it with you now anyway.
Oh, all right.
Other questions? Back to you, sir.
All right.
Just one final comment. I think I don't mean to be redundant and not respectful of this group, but I can't emphasize enough how important next month's meeting is going to be in both the executive and regular sessions. It's going to be a tremendously packed agenda, so I hope you can make every effort to be here in person.
Dan, I do have a question about next month's meeting. So we're going to do the executive session
At 3 o'clock.
at 3 o'clock. By the time we have our public meeting, will we be ready to share what we
No,
talked about? Okay.
not with the censuses. We're giving you an opportunity to see the proposed draft report and to comment on it as the client. Then Synthesis will take that back. And so this is a great point. On August 12th at 6 o'clock in the evening, Synthesis will come present the report on our behalf to an open public forum for the RDC and anybody else that wishes to attend. At that point, we will invite council, anybody that wants to be involved in that, to hear the final report.
Okay. Is there any other business to come before the commission prior to adjournment?
Well, it's good to see Jerry back in town.
It is.
Thank you, Dad. It's always good to be here.
All right. If there's no other business, I would like to ask for an adjournment. Can someone please?
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn.
You have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for adjournment. We'll do a roll call vote. David Blunt,
Approved.
Jerry Clifford,
Approved.
Cheryl Sullivan,
Approved.
Ray Rohana,
Approved.
Melissa Swindell.
Approved.
All right,
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
we are adjourned.